Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm Jeanna.
And I'm Ivo.
Happy Friday, Ivo.
Happy Friday, Jeanna.
And happy Friday to everybody out there. I hope you're having a wonderful Friday at any given time that you're listening to us, even if you're getting in your car before the sun comes up, which is pretty depressing because that's what I do a lot. And I am having the hardest time getting up lately. I don't know about you. I've been feeling like I'm literally peeling myself out of bed these past couple mornings.
I've
been doing it, but it's been rough.
I've reached that point in my life. Sad to admit that I constantly wake up in the middle of the night. I remember I used to hear stories about like my mom, waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to go back to sleep. And I'm like, yo, that's crazy. I could sleep. Or like your grandmother, like waking up at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and is downstairs cleaning all early and shit like that, right? I'm slowly stepping into that part of my life. And
slowly?
It's
I think you are already there.
No, I have yet to get up at 6 in the morning and start cleaning. So I'm not quite there yet, but I do get up in the middle of the night. And I'm up for a couple hours. It's
you know what I thought you were gonna say when you started off with this, and I was about to be like, oh, here Ivo go being all fucking good and shit.
What?
I thought you were gonna be like, well, no, not me. I can just get up in the morning and blah blah. I felt like that's how you were gonna say it, and then when you were like, no, actually, I have problems staying asleep.
Yeah, I do. I definitely have problems staying asleep. Yeah, when I get like, it's sad because like when I get what you would call a full night's sleep, that shit makes me tired. Like I'm off.
Yeah.
I literally walk around looking like I got no sleep when in reality I got what most people would call like a full night's sleep. Totally fucks me up.
Yeah, I think you thrive on like 6 to 7 hours, which I would literally be the nastiest person ever. I am like an 8 to 9 hour bitch.
Yeah.
I be in bed at 9 o'clock, eyes burning. So
yeah. Typically around the house, Gina's usually the one that stays in bed a little bit later. I get up in the morning and I'll go downstairs and just kind of get the house started. And
just so we're clear, later means like 8:30.
Yeah.
I'm not talking like 10, 11 o'clock. That be on the random that happens. But I think we're definitely coming into our older years where staying in bed later is harder.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like one of the ways I feel like that we support each other. Where I'll get up and I'll kind of just get things started in the house and I'll let you sleep.
Yeah, and then Ivo gets me up like a Folgers commercial. The best part of waking up is the cappuccino that Ivo makes in my cup, because honestly, Ivo makes the most amazing lattes that I can smell them from upstairs, and that shit pulls me out of bed. Like my soul just lifts me out of bed and it fucking just glides me downstairs.
Yeah, I've definitely dialed in that taste. Now that I got it, it's hard for me to get it anywhere else.
Yeah, you are definitely the master at that, even though every now and then I get in the kitchen and I kind of barista it up. But now that we're talking about supporting each other, our topic for today is maintaining a healthy relationship after having children. And I think Ivo and I can talk about this probably, I don't want to say better than anyone I know, but we definitely have experience in what it is to maintain a healthy relationship after having children on two different spectrums. So when Ivo and I first started dating, which was over 20 years ago, I already had 2 children previous to our relationship. So we, from the jump, had to learn how to navigate what it meant to have a healthy relationship while managing children. Even though I did a lot of the managing initially on my own, because you weren't introduced to the kids until about 6 months into our relationship. So I was kind of like doing that on my own. But once we got together as a couple and you became part of the children's lives, we had to find ways to make sure that we were committed to having time for you and I, separate from like our everyday, get up, go to work, take care of the house, take care of the kids, routine. Because that couples can fall into that shit really easily. So when I say on two ends of the spectrum, initially, we had a little bit of a luxury, which was the boys sometimes periodically would go and spend some time with their father. So that gave us time to hang out on the weekends. And we also had my younger brother living with us. And we are 7 years age difference. So right around the time you and I got together, he was about 18, 19, something like that.
Perfect. So
he was a great fucking babysitter.
Yeah, we had an in-house babysitter. She was great.
an in-house babysitter that I had to feed and take care of, but I love my brother. So we definitely had those two options, and not every couple has that. There are other couples that are going to have maybe parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles that maybe can play that role for them and give them a little bit of their freedom. So that was like the beginning of our relationship. And I think it did something for us that now in hindsight, I understand. And it allowed us to see that the time we did spend away from the kids, even though we loved them and we enjoyed being with them, it was so important for us to have that bonding time. And you and I always have so much fun together. I mean, I have so many great memories of so many times that we have gone off, but one jumps out of my mind, and it was that time that we went to the Governor's Island Festival.
We went to go see Black Coffee.
Yeah, but it was called like the Full Moon Festival.
Yeah.
When I tell you, day was the first time after we had our daughter that you and I went out, and we were out all day.
Yeah.
And as much as I missed her, we had such an amazing time together.
We went to a day party that we took into the night, so we got to watch the sunset.
Yeah.
And the
moonrise.
We got to watch the moonrise, and then we were out on the water. It was just a great experience.
The weather was perfect.
The weather was beautiful. The whole vibe changed from like this, fun day party to like a nightclub scene, and like to be able to be in that environment through that transition and spend the day out there, it really kind of just took us back to like what we used to do before we had our daughter. So when I said that it was on two ends of the spectrum, so since we had the two boys prior to our youngest daughter, we had a lot of time to sit back and really develop our relationship. Mm-hmm. And Ivo and I, over time, realized that we really enjoyed our free time. We really enjoyed our couple time. So the decision to have another child, we waited 10 years to have our daughter. That wasn't an easy feat because we were very much in love and we were getting haggled by people on every end to have a kid. But that was one of the standing foundations for us as a couple in maintaining a healthy relationship. We realized that bringing another child into the dynamic would then minimize the time that we had to share with each other. Yeah. As much as we loved each other and we wanted to have another child, we realized that that wasn't the best fit for us at the time, as we were still enjoying being a couple, being newlyweds, and having older kids. So we had even a little bit more freedom. But once we had our daughter, we kind of, had to reel it back, and it went back to that, not having as much time, juggling the home life, the school, the daycare. It went right back to that. And the minute we came out of that fog, we looked at each other and we said, we ain't having no more kids. Yeah, I think that was it. We were just a one and done.
We were like, no more babies, because we wanted to continue to have that time with each other. Yeah. And I know that for me, honestly, that wasn't the easiest decision, because I would have loved to have another child with you. But I also want to spend the rest of my life with you.
Yeah.
So I want to do that in the most stress-free, most peaceful, most fun way. And if we're going to be honest with ourselves, having children it's very stressful. You have a lot of responsibilities when it comes to being a parent. So that is the decision that we made, the commitment that we made to each other when it came to how we wanted to maintain our healthy relationship. I mean, that's not the only thing that we did, but for me, that was one of the most prevalent things that we did, which was the deciding factor of having our first child together, a decade into our relationship. And then after having that child, realizing that we no longer wanted to have anymore because we wanted to continue on, having our time separate from our kids. But what do you think is something that we did to maintain a healthy relationship over the last 20 years?
I think that the most healthy thing that we did by far to maintain a healthy relationship was not to rush into anything. I think taking our time, and I know 10 years sounds like a lot, right? I can imagine some of the eyes that opened up when they heard that, 10 years before they had their first kid. It wasn't a decision that we made, we're going to wait 10 years to have a kid. It just worked out like that. We were in no rush. I think, we did what the typical couple does at some point, and they talk about having kids. Mm-hmm. We reached a point in our relationship, it was probably around year 3 or 4, mm-hmm. Where we started to talk about, the future. Yeah. And, we would like kids together. And we decided that at that point, if it happens, it happens. We weren't gonna really try to force it. It didn't work out, and we ended that real quick. And that was
1 year before the 10th year.
That was 1 year before
year 9.
Yeah. And but I think that not rushing into stuff, kind of letting things build out organically, was by far the best decision that I think we made that maintained a healthy relationship for us. It's just kind of like, I don't know, theoretically it's placing it, watching, letting a forest grow wild and just kind of seeing what comes out of it. 10 years is what it just happened to pass by. And I think that was great because we have so much time that we can look back on and reflect on so many memories that we can now, when we need time to kind of like retouch those moments to kind of reignite things between us when need be, we have so much things to dip into, so many experiences that we've done together that we can kind of just go back and revisit and kind of take us back to a point in our life where it was just us.
I'm over here smiling because I'm like, yo, right on. It's so fucking true. We're actually going out tomorrow night with my cousin and his girlfriend, and it's gonna be probably like the first time in, I don't know, God knows how long, that we are going to go out to like a house music party, which I'm fucking hype about.
Yeah, we're house heads.
I may have to drink a Red Bull because like I said, 9:30, my eyes start to get, they literally start to burn. Like my eyes are like, hello, bitch, it is time for you to, when I think about our relationship and the commitment that we made to our relationship and how to maintain it being healthy, I feel like I don't want to make it seem like it was an easy thing. There were definitely times that we tripped up and we found ourselves drained of life. And I have come across so many other parents that when I see this in them, my heart like almost breaks for them, because we have a young daughter in elementary school. I talk to a lot of parents. I've heard the same thing over and over again. Oh, like we don't go out, we don't really do anything outside of the kids. And I see parents just basically like grinding themselves down into what I would believe is like almost, like they in the movie Get Out, when he just like puts them in the sunken place. I almost feel like that's where parents go because they devote their lives to their children. And I understand that that's a beautiful thing, but then in the process, they lose themselves.
They lose themselves and they lose the relationship with their spouse.
And both of those together, I think, are some of the most detrimental things to your overall mental health and the love and the bonding in your relationship. So it's not an easy feat, but it's something that you constantly have to work at. And a lot of parents, once they have children, they're going to find themselves in a place where they start to have disagreements that they didn't have when they weren't parents. Things like parenting styles, finances, household responsibilities that can start to eat away at your relationship. And when you find this happening, you start to kind of get this resentment towards your partner. So if you're not taking that time to say, hey, listen, I get it. Things are a little fucking crazy right now. Let's go out and have dinner. Let's go take a walk in the park, whatever it is, make that time. And this actually becomes even harder if you have multiple children. Again, I know parents that they have small children, very close in age, and, they'll say things to me like, I'm so tired, or, I don't have any time for myself, or, they're not happy with the way that their life is functioning on a day-to-day basis. And they're also finding themselves, the word that I'm looking for is, I don't want to say discomfort, but they're in a bad way with their partner because of these level of responsibilities that they have. And studies have shown that people are less romantic with each other after becoming parents. So studies are showing that this is happening. So this is why we want to talk about some of the ways that you can find yourself on a path to continue building, something healthy for you and for your partner, so that your relationship overall will be, I almost kind of think about it like making a good cake.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, awesome. Like, because you got to put in all the right ingredients.
Okay.
You miss one. You miss one ingredient.
And it's all fucked up.
Yeah. So I mean,
it don't grow right. You have a lopsided cake.
Yeah. Or in any recipe, right? You need to know what the ingredients are. Like what's his name said?
Shit gotta be moist inside.
Oh my God. What did that comedian say? I think it was Dave Chappelle. He was like, "It's sugar, water, purple."
Yeah. Exactly.
It's grape drink, baby.
Simple ingredients. You can't never forget that kids will drive a wedge between you and your spouse
for so many different reasons.
Right? And I think that one thing that we do that's very helpful, joint effort between the both of us, like this is not something that you can do just as one person in a relationship, is that we make sure that we act as a unit.
Yeah.
You know, we don't
unit.
Yeah, exactly. We actively try not to let the kids put a wedge between us. So when the kids have something that they need, they have to go through both of us. There is no real, oh, I can go to mom, I can go to dad, and you know, and then develop that dynamic where a parent kind of like favors the kid more than the other one, or a parent is trying to be the good parent and the other parent's the bad parent because they're acting differently when it comes to parenting the kid.
We actually get kind of upset when the kids try to manipulate us in that way.
Oh yeah, we check them all the time. I'm sorry, what? Like, well, you know, like I'll say no about something and then they'll go to her and try to get it from her, and she'll say yes because we obviously didn't talk about it, and then we'll find out that the kid did that, and we'll pull the kid to the side and be like, no, this doesn't happen. You know, it's, you know, we make sure we back each other up for it. And I think that that's a great way to start a healthy relationship post kids, is not allowing the kids to come between you, to making sure that you're actively making decisions together as a unit. A lot of times where one of the children may ask me for something, a lot of the times, 99.99999% of the times that one of the kids asks me for something, unless it's something very minuscule, I got to talk to her about it. We have to talk about it. We got to make a decision together.
Yeah.
And I think that that's been very helpful for us.
Yeah. I feel very supported in a lot of decisions that we make. And there are times I know it's in an uncomfortable place because one of us may be more of the disciplinary.
Yeah.
In a particular situation where one of the kids may be either asking for something or they have done something that they shouldn't have. And there's been many times where you'll just be behind me and be like, that's what she said. And that's what we actually just went through that with our daughter when it came to her privileges, when it came to her iPad. Yeah. We sat down and we had a democratic conversation about how we were going to go about doing this, and then you and I were bouncing things back and forth because you wanted to extend the bedtime, I didn't want to extend the bedtime, and we had to find like that
we came to like a consensus.
Yeah, we came to that comfortable medium.
Yeah, but
I think that that's great advice, though.
I think it's been super helpful for us. The only reason I suggest it is because of what it does for our relationship.
Yeah.
It makes sure that we don't feel like we're not on the same plane. I think that as parents, you know, you don't ever want to look at the other parent as like, oh, the kids like that parent more than they like me, or I'm the bad guy, that parent's the good guy, you know. And then all of a sudden you're playing different roles when in reality you guys should be one. Just, you know, reiterating what I said, you know, not allowing the kids to put a wedge between you two is essential for one portion of maintaining a healthy relationship post-kid.
I so agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, Ivo, you and I, we do things and I don't always look at it the way that you look at things. And then when you say them, I'm like, yeah, we do that, don't we?
You know, but there's like little things like that. Of course, we trust each other to make, you know, an executive decision on without needing to kind of consult one another. Yeah. But most of the time, we make sure that we make the decision together.
Well, I also think one of the big pieces is that without us consulting each other, then one of the parents kind of become lost. So, for example, our daughter's in Girl Scouts. And when she first joined Girl Scouts, the Girl Scout troop leader was constantly communicating with me. Even though she had both of our phone numbers. Right. And I made it a point to say to her, hey, you need to include my husband in these conversations because I'm not her only parent. Like, we are a unit, and there's going to be times that I can't bring her to Girl Scouts, and he needs to know what's going on without me having to tell him. Yeah. So I know there are a lot of parents out there that what will happen is that they'll take on that responsibility of managing something in their child's life without communicating it to their partner, and then being almost mad that their partner doesn't know about it. Yeah. Like the other day, you blew me away when our daughter asked you if she could bring a particular snack to school, and you're like, no, you can't have that. Your teacher said that these type of snacks, and I totally forgot that. When you said, I was like, fuck yeah, you tell her she can't bring that snack to school.
that's okay. So that's part of my role, right? I get her snacks ready in the morning for school, so I make sure that it doesn't fall outside of the whatever it was. They sent home a piece of paper on what they recommend snacks to be and what not to bring because it can get messy. So definitely recorded that.
I know, but I totally forgot that thing, even when it felt so good to know, because I was actually walking out the door. I was on my way to work, and just to know that you were like, no, we do things a certain way. I was like, oh, okay. I'll see y'all later. So what's something else? And I love that, working as a unit.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that is helpful to implement in a relationship so that it maintains to be a healthy relationship post kids is communicating with each other on a regular basis. I can't stress how important yet simple that is. Just talking to each other, kind of just touching back on what we were saying earlier, doing a lot of the things that you used to do before you had the kids, not losing touch with that stuff is super important. Why? Because it brings you back to moments that you had when the kids weren't around.
Yeah.
It keeps those memories alive. It keeps those feelings alive. You don't want those things to die because those are the feelings that brought you together to begin with. So many people can get lost in just the everyday grind of children and school and work and home life and everything like that the maintenance of the relationship just kind of fizzles off to the background. So simple things like going out to dinner, having a movie night, and it doesn't even have to be like going out to the movies. You can have a movie night at home. One thing that we like to do, where we have this thing, it's like, we do it every once in a while, but it's, for us, it's super intimate.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
I almost have the words almost escape me on what it really is because I can't describe it, because it's just so unique and such a it takes us back to such a place in our relationship that I don't even know what to call it. But we have this thing where it's called Naked Tuesday.
Oh,
right?
That's not what I thought you were gonna say,
yes.
but okay.
Yeah, where we just kind of like, we undress and there's no expectation of sex or anything like that. We just get, there's nothing more vulnerable than being in front of somebody with no clothes on.
Yeah.
So we get into like this,
especially for women.
Yeah, we set a vulnerable stage and then we do it in front of each other, and we lay in bed and we just kind of talk. We laugh, and it's so hard to explain. I think you really gotta try it to really experience it. But once we did it, I just knew that it was something that had to be a regular part of our relationship. What did you think I was gonna say?
I thought you were gonna say sometimes we get a hotel room.
Well, that was on my.
Oh, okay.
That's on my list. That was on my list. But I mean, I suggested that because going out to dinner, getting a hotel room, these things cost money.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying to come up with tools and tips on how to do things at home.
Yeah.
That will help maintain a healthy relationship between parents without having to spend money, because for some families are on a tight budget, and I don't want to sit here.
We're on a tight budget,
but some, thankfully, we maintain a healthy budget, and we're also able to maintain a nice lifestyle. I think, for us.
Yeah.
For other people, probably don't do shit, but for us, I think it's great.
They're like, her car is from what year?
Yeah, exactly. Fuck that shit. But for some people, it's even harder.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
To break away. So I didn't want to be that to be the first thing I suggested. I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that we do at home that doesn't involve, spending any money.
Well, interesting that you say that. That was another one of the reasons that you and I decided not to have any more children, was because we have no additional help.
Yeah.
We have no grandparents. We have no aunts and uncles. We have nobody that can just come and babysit for us. Our dynamic revolves around our older children who help us now with our daughter.
Yeah.
At one time we had a babysitter, and luckily I have some really good friends that every now and then, if I'm really like in a tight space, there's even been times where a good friend of ours, she has babysat our daughter so that we went away one time for a wedding. So we don't really have like that person that we can just be like, oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
So we have come up with ways to continue that bond between us. And it's funny because we say Naked Tuesdays, but it doesn't always happen on a Tuesday.
No,
it'd be a fucking Sunday, and we just call it Naked Tuesdays, like Taco Tuesdays.
Yeah.
But I think what I love about that day so much is because we do exactly that. It's very vulnerable. We just lay there and we talk, and that came out of a piece of communication that Ivo and I had when it came to, and I don't want to jump ahead, but it's talking about our sex life. And we needed to approach our sex life differently. There were ways that we needed to find intimacy that were outside of just getting in there and going. So Naked Tuesdays was kind of born out of that. But there is still no expectation of sex, which I think is great.
I think that's the best part about it, because you just kind of like see what, just see where it goes. I don't know. It's for I can. It
almost kind of feels like we're dating, or we're like, oh my goodness.
I can almost see a lot of guys like, what? You get naked and you don't do what? And like, so listen, for all you guys out there, don't knock it unless you've tried it. It takes a certain level of discipline to be able to lay with a woman and make her feel like there's no expectation of sex.
Yeah.
You know, kind of put the ball in her court. If she wants to, fine, you're there for it. If not, then you're there for that too. You know, and it's okay for her to be able to get into that environment, take her clothes off, feel comfortable, and maybe not feel like there's this expectation, oh, we have to have sex. Set that tone and watch how your woman might act. You'll be surprised what could come out of her. What she'll be able to. No
pun intended.
Yeah, right. no pun intended. What the things that she'll talk about, the feelings that she'll express, there's just so much to do when sex is not on the table. You know what I mean? And so for anybody who hasn't done it, don't knock it, because you've never been there. You don't know what that experience is like. And for us it's been great. But you know, some other stuff to do besides that, if you want to go out, do things that okay, so you definitely want to always be able to go back into your relationship and tap into things that you used to do together that you enjoyed, right? Things that you used to do for fun, whether it be ice cream, ice skating, taking a walk, doing like snowboarding and things like that. Whatever you did as a couple when you used to go on dates, that you remember, those were the times that you laughed together, you would smile, your most memorable moments. Like, relive those. Don't think that those things are too old to just do again, because
you'd be surprised.
Yeah, in an environment where there's nothing, that's definitely something.
As soon as you said that, not snowboarding, but one of my favorite memories with you, maybe like 2-3 years ago, we went sledding with our daughter was with us. Yeah. And I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna do this like I'm a little kid. Yeah. And we had the time of our lives that day. It got to a point where we were like, all right, I'm good. And I was like, no, I'm gonna go one more time.
Yeah. I got tired real quick. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, I was having such a great time, and it was just because we were just having fun and we were laughing with each other, and then we went and we had hot chocolate. And yes, our daughter was with us, but I think at the same time, the experience wasn't just about her, it was about us too. Yeah. And we made it a point to make that apparent.
Yeah. In addition to kind of like going back and dipping into old things that you used to do, also add new things. And some of you might be thinking like, well, you know, like especially on the guys, right? Like some guys, I think they have a hard time coming up with things to do and being creative, because a lot of guys are just like that. They're just, you know, do the day in and day out and kind of just show up and, you know, and just be what most guys are, right? Non-spontaneous and all this other stuff. For those guys that are like that, try to add something to your relationship, and it's called active listening. And when I say active listening, as you're like listening to this episode, you're like, communicating, right? That's something that maybe would be beneficial for us, and so I'm going to implement that. While you're communicating, actively listen to your partner. In this case, it would be your spouse, your wife, and listen in for things that she may say that either she likes, she's interested in, something that caught her attention, something that she may want to do. These are fucking golden clues for you to come up with things spontaneously that she doesn't expect.
These shits are nuggets.
These are nuggets, right?
Yeah.
And
I got a perfect example of that.
And I'm telling you right now, we got it a lot easier than people than guys before us. Why? Because we have phones now that have notepads. You know, before a guy would have to like pick these things up in a conversation and try to remember it, and then maybe you go write it down or jot it down. You know, if you got a bad memory, you got to make some type of note of it. Now we got phones; we can just jot that shit down in your notepad. And I'm gonna admit that I have a list of things in my notepad that I kind of like listen in, and I say, oh, wow, she wants to do that. Boom, and I put it in my notepad, and I'll tuck it away for later. Before you know it, just with this active listening, you may find yourself with a list of shit to do, and then now you can spontaneously come up with all these ideas that will hit on her interest. I'm just gonna say, it's not a bad thing to do. Girls like surprises. Women like surprises. They love when a man is spontaneous. Listen, I already took care of it. On Thursday, we're gonna go do X, Y, Z. But come to find out, it's something that she was interested in. Just the sound of it alone, like look at the smile on her face.
Because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about a recent time that you did this. Yeah. Where you like just were like, get dressed, we're going to this place. Yeah. And then Ivo took me to the cutest fucking. It was a raccoon boba place.
So Gina loves raccoons.
My two favorite, two of my favorite things.
And raccoons.
So
two favorite things.
When they serve you the boba, they serve it to you in a raccoon hand. It's like the hand comes out of like a burrow. Yeah. And when I tell you, I was like, oh my God. And then we had pizza in this amazing place. Yep. That was like, I don't know, I've been there since like 1920. And it was the best day ever. And it was off of the back of a really bad experience that I had. I tried to do something in the house and it went fucking left, and I was in tears, and Ivo was like, get dressed, we're going to this place. And he made my day, and it was something the gesture was so small and so sweet. And
so let me tell you,
I'm sitting here with this smile because I know how beneficial, and how much a woman will appreciate those things. Like, yeah, it's nice to get gifts, it's nice when we go places, but it's when you hit on those little nerves that maybe I'm not verbalizing, like, hey, I want to do this, and you do it anyway. I'm like, oh shit, he's paying attention.
So let me tell you how important that active listening is. Look, listen to how this shit just played out, right? As I'm sitting here, as we're going through our relationship, and I'm collecting things and ideas that I'm putting into a notepad for us to do later on in our relationship, whenever we have time, whenever it's the right moment. There's no rush to do it, but something happened at the house, and I already had planned that on our next outing that I take you out, we were going to go to this place. I just hadn't really set a date, it really hadn't, but that was the next thing that I wanted to do with you. Something happened at the house that, it just, something didn't go well for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I tried to do something with the floors and I fucked that shit up.
She fucked the floors up. Like, we have hardwood floors and she fucked it up bad.
Okay, to make a long story short.
So she came outside, she was really upset, and she was like,
in tears.
And I came inside and I'm like, all right. And I know how she is. If we would have sat in that house, she would have went nuts. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? Get dressed. Come on. We're leaving. We're going somewhere. And I took her to, like, we went from being at home super upset about something to I put her in a place where they serve boba tea, which is her favorite, and they're served by raccoons. I mean, like, really. That was like the best thing ever.
Ladies, if you're a trash panda lover, that's where it's at.
So just keep in mind that, active listening is something that
I love that.
I'm glad you do.
That's fucking stellar advice, yo. I mean, stellar advice. Like,
I learned that the hard way, because listen, I wasn't always like that. This wasn't something that I actively did. It's something that I picked up along the way that I've learned to implement in our relationship that has been super helpful.
Yeah, because after 20 years, you start to run out of fucking ideas.
Yeah. So by no way, shape, or form, I don't want anybody to think like, oh, he's this dude. That's easy for him because he was just like that. No, I wasn't always like that. It was just I've gone through. There's many layers of this onion that have been peeled back throughout the years. All right. And so this is just something
that you've learned that works.
That I've learned that works over the years. Yeah. And in addition to doing that, going to what you said earlier, sometimes, you need to just go out and get a fucking room.
Yeah.
All right. Because you will be, I don't know if you'll be surprised, but it's mind blowing how far disconnected you get from the intimacy that you used to have to the intimacy that exists once you have kids, right? This gotta be quiet, gotta do it around certain times, can't really get down like you used to. Sometimes you just gotta take it back to the old days.
And get it in where it fit in.
And go and get a room, because you're touching back on previous experiences that were very special to you two as a couple. And getting back to the roots, getting back down to the basics, it's what needs to be done.
I will say, though, it's not like we're just going and getting a hotel room just to have sex. I will stop at the 7-Eleven and get chips and snacks. And then
we'll make a night of it.
I will also watch we'll watch 3 episodes of The Office, and we'll drink a little wine and we'll just laugh and we'll have a good time. But it's just that it's the freedom.
Yeah, it's the idea that there aren't kids close somewhere by. I think that really puts a damper on things. And even though I'm sure many couples have great intimacy while they're at home with their kids, at certain hours, when the kids are sleeping or whatever, and it's just the right moment. But being in an environment where they're not around, and you don't have to be concerned about being too quiet or waking them up, or you just get to act freely and act freely in that space where you did once before, and it was nothing but beautiful memories. Getting back to that sometimes is you almost forget about the value that's in it. I felt like that we did, because once we did it, we were like, oh,
and then I remember more recently when we did it, the next morning we found a really nice cafe. We went and we had coffee and croissants, and then we were home by 10 o'clock, and it was great.
Yep. Now
I see your notes. I'm like, I feel like this is the important part.
Yeah, I think that one thing that we did a lot of work on making sure that this didn't hinder our relationship was finding a good balance between the daily responsibilities that we have when it comes to caring for the kids. I think that couples can get very lost in shifting responsibilities back and forth to each other, where one is carrying more of the responsibility at one point than the other one. The dynamic shifts between the relationship, and then those responsibilities shift back over to the other one. And sometimes this degree of envy can develop, like, oh, I'm doing more than this person is.
Actually, I wouldn't say it's envy. It's like a degree of resentment towards towards your partner.
Absolutely. There's definitely a degree of resentment that grows between you and your partner, and keeping an open communication about these emotions is super essential to maintaining a healthy relationship, because what can end up happening is something that we have called a nonverbal issue. Nonverbal issues exist when feelings of resentment start to arise between you and your partner, and they're not spoken.
But you can see it in your partner's body language.
You can, not only can you see it in your partner's body language, but speaking from yourself as your person, like speaking from a first person's point of view, if you're feeling resentment towards your partner and you're not speaking to your partner about these things, they become internal issues, right? They can be one of two things, either a verbal or a non-verbal issue. Verbal issues, they are expressed, right? They come out and they're resolved. Internal issues, not only do they are they depressing, but if they stay inside long enough, they start to become part of your character. They become woven into your soul and change who you are as a person. And these are kind of like the cracks that happen in a relationship that start to send two people off in a different direction. Emotionally, they're not on the same wavelength. They're not in tune. Making sure that you always communicate about these feelings that, hey, listen, I'm a little overwhelmed right now with these responsibilities. I feel like it's a lot. Can we talk about this, please? Because I'm feeling like I'm about to collapse.
Yeah.
Right?
Just so we know, Evil's got tears in my eyes right now.
Because it's emotional when we talk about it, because these are very groundbreaking moments for us. Like, we can look back at our relationship and see how important these moments have been for us in keeping us side by side, you know, holding hands and stuff like that.
As you're saying that, I think about when we first had our daughter, and there were moments where I was mentally and physically exhausted, and you would take her and you would just be like, you're not touching shit, you're not doing shit. I think the one thing that it was hard is, like, you know, to keep the kids more quiet so that I could rest. I just remember so many of those moments where, you know, you would step in when you would see me drowning. Sometimes I would say it, sometimes I wouldn't even have to say it. You just knew that it was too much for me. And it wasn't because I had more of the responsibility. Maybe just at that point in time, I was just myself feeling overwhelmed with what I was taking on. You and I have these conversations a lot. Yeah. And sometimes they're really great, and a lot of positivity comes out of them. And there's times that you and I have these conversations and we walk away really upset at each other. Absolutely. Because we feel like one of the partners is not valuing what it is that we're doing, because I may be saying to you, I need you to do more, or vice versa.
And that's the last thing I want to do is more fucking work.
Yeah. So,
but like, these things don't get resolved without conversation.
Like how, you know, they said in Friday, stop being a bitch and come on. No, but I just want the audience to know that when these conversations are happening, it's not always like, oh my God, yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Whatever you need. No, there were literally times Evil's like, are you out of your mind?
A lot of it,
and we have to circle back.
Is met with denial. But it sets the foundation for a conversation. It sets the platform where these things can be put out, and now they're seen, now they're known, you know. And even though it may not be clear at the moment, now that it's out in the open, it gives the opportunity to be able to look at it from a different perspective if you're open-minded like that. And it gets very easy to kind of just come home tired and just shift the responsibilities over to your spouse because you don't want to fucking deal with it. I know I'm guilty of it. She's guilty of it. But not speaking about these things can be a huge divide in a relationship. And I know that this is true in a lot of relationships. You know, people just, it's hard to talk about these things. I'm not saying that this is fucking easy. You know, people get real sensitive when it comes to talking about issues between each other and saying how they really feel about each other. The other person may not want to acknowledge it. Oh, you know, they may not want to admit that they're doing something wrong that's making the other person uncomfortable,
or they're not pulling their weight. Yeah, you know.
But I think that it definitely starts with remembering that you love this person and that you vow to love this person to eternity. And in that moment of discomfort, you have to ask yourself, what can I do, if possible, to show this person that I still love them, that I acknowledge them, and I'm going to try to do something, see what it is to alleviate the way that they feel. It may not.
And this may be over the course of like a week. Yeah. You may have to think about this for like several days in a row.
It's not like, oh, you have, you like, it's like, it's never for us an issue of like, oh, Ivo, you're not being as active in Ava's homework as you know, as you need to be. And I'm just like, oh, really? Oh, okay. All right. Tomorrow, no problem. I'll do it. No, it's a bunch of us not agreeing on the way she sees it and I see it. But then eventually I remind myself that there's something going on with her. I need to set my feelings aside and just figure out how much of what she's saying is actually valid. How much of of what she's feeling am I responsible for, and taking ownership of my actions and seeing what I can do, and again, what I can do. It's not what I have to do or what needs to be done. It's just trying to figure out, even if I could just do a little bit, just to show her like, all right, I hear you, and I don't want to like disregard your feelings. So maybe this could be helpful. Maybe this can be helpful. And it's just that little step that can mean so much in just coming to a resolution and something of where two people don't see eye to eye.
I think you have one last thing, and we're like right towards the end, but I want to talk about this one right here.
Okay, so just go right into it.
I want to talk about that because I think that I'm not going to say that it's the most important, but I think it is very important when it comes to maintaining a healthy relationship, and it's talking about the sexual needs in your relationship. Because as you are in a relationship for years on end or decades on end, what your sexual needs and desires will change. So if you're not consistently talking about them, you're going to find yourself in a space where you're on opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to satisfaction in your sexual life.
Nonverbal issues.
Yeah, and Ivo and I have gone through this shift several times, and I would say more recently, and I'm going to share more recently, something that we went through is Ivo was feeling like I sexually wasn't as spontaneous as I used to be. And we had to sit down and have a talk about what that meant. And I think maybe Ivo wasn't seeing it the way that I saw it, and that was the problem. And it was, I love sex, but I need sleep. One of the big factors is that we have a, if we look back upon our spontaneity in our sexual life, is a lot of times previous to our daughter. And now managing a household with 3 kids, and we don't have, our kids are not going to see their father anymore, and they're older, and we got teenagers, and we're managing high school and elementary. My energy level was being diminished, so my level of spontaneity was not going to be the same. So that was something that we had to talk about, because he's looking at it like she's still this rock of a woman that she has been since the beginning, and she's just balancing all these different things. Why still can't we do things the way that we used to? And that was a part of our conversation. So there are many ways that you may want to tackle talking about what your sexual needs are. And a lot of the times, that's, like I said earlier, that's where Naked Tuesdays came out of.
Yeah.
Because we needed to approach our sexual life different. And I know this may sound corny, but there are times that you may need to schedule sex. But I just want people to think about this different than what it sounds like. It's not like you put like a date in your calendar. What I mean is, think about how you used to approach sex when you were dating and you lived separately. Ladies, you're going to tell me that when you were going out that night, you didn't go get a really nice outfit. You didn't get your hair and your nails done. You didn't shave and wax every fucking part of your body so that after that night, if the energy was flowing, it led into sex. So you were somewhat scheduling sex. Maybe you want to approach it the same way when you are in a relationship and you do have children, because I think scheduling is going to be beneficial for you when you are trying to managing so many things. But don't look at it as mundane, like you're fucking scheduling a work event. Yeah,
well, I mean, at the same time, I think that men should also remember and acknowledge that, sexual needs change throughout the course of a relationship. And I think that they change much more for women than they do for men.
Yeah, I would agree, because, we don't get a recycle of our hormones every 24 hours.
Yeah.
And especially post-children, there's a huge change with our hormones, our body, the way we see ourselves. That plays a part.
Absolutely, all plays a part. I think that another thing that plays a part is that I feel that women connect sexual experience to excitement. So if something is exciting to them, as far as the chemistry that's going on between them and the another person, that will stimulate sexual desires in some degree. I can't say that it's instant, baja panty, which is like panties to the floor, but something starts to stimulate, right? And it starts with the excitement. It starts with the smiles. It starts with the spontaneity. It starts with the with the wittiness, right? All of that stuff, right? That's all great. That's all fine and great in the beginning. That's all fine, right? In the beginning of a relationship, guys, because for them, everything is new. Everything that we're doing is exciting, but at some point that becomes regular, and so things change for them, and they're not as exciting. And for us, it's
not as exciting, because you said they're not as exciting.
Yes, thank you for correcting me on that. it's not as exciting. The relationship, I mean, it's not to say that there's no value there. It's just not as exciting as it used to be. So therefore, that initial thing, that spark to the tinder, is no longer happening. You know, you're just trying to like, light up a fire without, getting the amber going, and working that up.
Yo, Ivo and his guru shit, bro. I'm
but it's not like that for us. It doesn't take much. If they just look at us in a weird way, I mean, we're ready to go. Mm-hmm. A simple caress or a touch of the hand, it doesn't take much for us to get going. So just remember that may be the difference in sparking up what is missing as far as sexually goes in the relationship between you and your spouse. Getting back in touch with those things that you used to do that would excite your spouse can very much so be the difference between regularly having sex and having sex, sporadically, and it'd be kind of frustrating because you can't tell whether she's coming or going. Some days they hormonally, they go up and down, right? So there's always like one time of the month where they're looking at you like, yeah, I don't need much right now. We can do this. We can get this going. But like if you want more than that, then you got to do more. And I'm guilty of being a victim of this, right? Of being a victim of my own downfall.
I was like, you was a victim?
A victim of my own fucking downfall, where like we hit that part of our relationship where all of a sudden she was like, yeah, like I love you and we can be together forever. But like the thing that used to excite me is now normal.
Yeah.
And so like you need to kind of like not forget that I need to get excited. All right, men?
Yeah, ladies.
Let's go. Get the excitement going. And that may consist of
shit, Eva, I'm excited now. This motherfucker on this episode brought me to tears, laughter.
Got you excited.
I'm excited.
You see all this stuff right here. Listen, you know what's funny? What I thought was, I literally had like lost all value in what this was, and it still works, and it's a great tool in the excitement of our relationship. Is dirty text messages. Yo, finding the right time to like throw in a dirty text message.
Yeah.
Yo, she'll come home like obviously we're texting each other because we're not around each other. She'll come home and it's on.
I'd be like, yo, what's that shit you was talking?
What's that shit you was talking over text? Like she's like, so. Be spontaneous. Get the excitement going.
Yeah.
Fellas, all right.
That was fucking great. I always say I enjoy talking to you, but honestly, sometimes we get on here even when I'm just like, literally right before we press record, I was like, yo, get rid of that attitude. I don't know what's wrong with you right now. Okay. And then we're sitting on here fucking, having a good time.
Yes.
But I always enjoy talking to you. I hope that everybody that is either listening to us or watching us, I hope you also enjoy talking to us and listening to us. I said talking to us, listening to us, or watching us, however you consume our content. And that's really it. We hope that people continue to subscribe, comment, share our content. That's been happening more often lately. A lot of people have been really enjoying some of our posts that we've been putting out, and they've been sharing it, and we're so appreciative of that. That really helps us. And I really think that that's it. And so until next Friday, ladies and gentlemen, peace out.